was. That Tuesday, they sat in a lab and they said, let's go in and change the biology of that cancer cell. And they did it, and they measured it, and we are now being presented that that just happened. They meditated a change in a cancer cell. You're about to witness the world's greatest research study on meditation and its effect on the physical body. And I want to start off saying that I do not disregard modern medicine. But it's however clear to me now that the magnitude of preventive effect that meditation has on our physical body and our mental well-being can also not be disregarded anymore. I also want to acknowledge that the production level of this documentary may not suit a skeptic mind. That's where I've done my review and my summary of this research and the work done by these scientists. I hope you enjoy.
We wanted to cast the widest net that we could to see, can we capture any signal that meditation has on the body? First place we wanted to look was the brain, the mind. So we used an EEG. The second area where we looked was in the blood. We looked at heart rate variability. We took saliva and cheek scrapes because in these cells you can do genetic testing and epigenetic expressions.
So this was a rigorous study of measuring a whole bunch of different things.
How would I design a study that could kind of get a little more detail on this question? And then it really hit me, realizing I was sitting in an audience of 1,500 people that all were in the same time zone. They all spent 1 week together in the same location, on the same schedule, eating the same food.
What he claims here, it just captured the excitement. Like he has 1,500 people having the same routines, eating the same food, doing the same treatment. 1,500, like when can you in any research experiment get that amount of data under the same roof? Like it's so controlled. And that's why this is so exciting. Like they are participants in the greatest attempt of studying meditation ever.
Part of this study was to figure out who was going to be the control. The ideal control for this study, we ultimately sort of agreed on, would be the person that was at the resort relaxing but not meditating, right? So there's lots of spouses that come to...
So they have this natural control group, which is everyone's spouses, family members, that is also at the hotel, but they're not participating in the retreat. So they are not inside doing the meditations, but they're still there. So they would do the exact same blood test, the EEGs, the measurements, everything the same from the people doing the intervention, doing the meditations, with the control group to then see the result, the benchmark the result.
My name is Hamil Patel. I'm a professor and vice chair of research in the Department of Anesthesiology at the University of California, San Diego. We pitched this idea of, there's this event I was at in Cancun. Red flags going off Cancun. What kind of event in Cancun? How sciencey could that be? He said, I saw some things. I saw people cured of cancer. What he said made absolutely no sense to me as a scientist, right? There's no way.
So now we're gonna see Patel Hamel, what he came out with, what he found out.
What we noticed in the blood of subject 001 and many other meditators that we've looked at over the last couple years is they elevate a specific protein in their blood called serpin-A5. And when we think about the biology of how SARS gets into the cell, serpin-A5 becomes a really interesting, important protein to look at. It's a protease inhibitor. And so when you think about how SARS gets in, spike protein binds to ACE2 receptors, and a protease comes in to cleave that binding to then allow the virus to internalize. What meditators do is that they elevate the serpin-A5 protein, which acts as an inhibitor, the scissors that chop that interaction. So now the virus is able to bind to the surface of the cell, but it's stuck there. There's no way for it to get inside, and meditators have elevated the specific protein that creates this phenotype.
This is remarkable. I mean, this is, if what he's saying has substance and it's true, it's amazing. I meditate, I am increasing this level of the protein serpine A5, which then cuts off the virus, in this case the SARS-CoV-2 virus, to try to enter the cell, my system, and then I'm getting this protein to inhibit that. So I'm making myself immune to these viruses through meditation, because meditation is increasing the serpine A5. That's great. Just this screen here, it's worth paying attention to. This is things that they find in the bodies. They had the control group, remember, the people that were in the same area at the same hotel not participating. Then we have the novice, so the beginners, the ones that is participating for the first time, which would then come with this healthy skepticism. And here we can see like all these dark blue, you see the differences. So we're looking at primary metabolites. The novice has something here which the control group just doesn't. So we can see here like there is remarkable differences. So looking here on this screen, we see the control group to the left, the people who again were in the same hotel, the same area, but who didn't participate. They want basically to see if the meditation could inhibit the metabolism, so basically decrease the function of the cancer cell through meditation. So here this gap then would indicate that it stopped function to 70% on this right place over there.
So we started looking at more and more of these samples. So 11 out of 13, that's 84% of experienced individuals show the same response as subject 001 in terms of decreasing mitochondrial function.
The decrease in mitochondrial function was this chart that showed how well the cancer cells were functioning. 84% of them mimicked the exact same results.
Dr. Joe teaches us how to activate our heart center, that field can actually expand between 3 up to 10 feet wide. It's measurable on what they call squid magnetometers. What we've seen...
Another claim, squid magnetometers, superconducting quantum interference device, is an extremely sensitive instrument used to measure very weak magnetic fields. Very costly to operate. This is how it looks like. I want one. I want a squid magnetometer on humans. Yes, you can measure a human's body magnetic field with a squid, and it is already being used in special fields like brain and heart research. However, the complexity is with the cost of the equipment. This is just... We can measure magnetic fields.
So the question in my mind when I go to these events is the person comes up and does a testimonial and their cancer's gone in 7 days. And you're like, no way. I mean, as a human, you're like, that's amazing. As a scientist, you're like, bullshit. There's no way that's happening. And so I wanted to design an experiment that would test this in the lab. And so what we actually did is we have lots of cancer cells in the lab. So the idea was, could we bring healers into a room and have them focus around an incubator full of normal and cancer cells? Cancer cells have no body, no mind, but they can receive energy, right? It's a living system. It's the basic unit of life. And the studies that we did were controlled, so that we did them 4 or 5 times. We had controls where cells were sitting in a laboratory that no one has ever seen at the same time from the same population. We had normal cells as well as cancer cells in that incubator, and we looked at the biology on all of this. And what we noticed is that
the science is good. This is someone who knows how to conduct a good experiment with all the controls measurements. And since we're watching it, I guess there's going to be a result being announced now, which will be mind-blowing.
whatever these individuals did as a group was able to change the biology of a cancer cell in a dish. So this starts to build this level of evidence, right? We see these amazing things that happen.
Again, let's summarize. These people was brought into a lab. They had cancer cells on a little dish, on a little tray and then normal ones on another tray, and they put these people to do this group meditation of literally channeling energy through this expanded measurable field, which you can measure with a squid, with a super quantum interference device. So they enhance their heart space, directing that energy, and they manage to interfere and change the biology of that cancer cell. Like, pause! Stop the press! They sat in a lab of group of people meditating, changing the biology of a cancer cell. That's what they did. That Tuesday, they sat in a lab and they said, let's go in and change the biology of that cancer cell. And they did it, and they measured it, and we are now being presented that that just happened. They meditated a change in a cancer cell inside a lab.
So it's this continuum of studies that's starting to build increasing amounts of evidence to suggest that something's happening.
This is going to be the next. It's always fun when you see new groundbreaking stuff. It's always fun to play around with what will the new problem, what new problem will occur? What new problem will occur? You know, will there be cancer activists in the future? Cancer are living beings too. Cancer of living organisms. Who are we to deplete the energy of them? You know, activists going against meditators saying like, just vampires sucking out the energy of cancers. Who are we to see ourselves superior to cancer? But cancer are killing us, so we should kill cancer. You know, that's it's still like us versus them. It's like, fuck you, cancer, we're gonna kill you with meditating. I'm not going to raise the flag about that being a moral dilemma. I won't be that guy. I'm just saying that this is a fun thought experiment. I bet your grandkids will be the cancer activists. I don't think we should actively do something. I think there's a lot to be done when it comes to decreasing cancer in humanity before we need to care for the cancer cells, I guess. Let's just leave it with that for now. Cancer was gone. Cancer was gone. Bright light and blue waves.
And
Wow.
he said, well, we don't even have to do a bone marrow biopsy, because he said, no, I want you to have the bone marrow biopsy because I want to prove that this works.
He went into the bone marrow biopsy to prove that it works. Isn't bone marrow biopsy like the most painful? It's not completely painless. How big is the bone marrow needle? What is 15 gauge in millimeters? 1.5 millimeter wide. That's. And he did it. That guy, Charles, the legend. He went in and he let them go in with that needle into his spine to prove a point. He wanted to show that it worked. Here I am reviewing the validity of this documentary while this guy had 1.5 millimeter wide needle being put into his spine to prove a point. That's essentially what he did. He didn't need it for his cancer. He wanted to prove a point. Can we get that smiling face? Can we see this beautiful, beautiful man laughing like he was 3 years old? In the bliss of not having cancer anymore. What a fucking legend! Charles took 1.5 millimeter wide needle. This is impossible. He had a needle where you can see with your own eyes the openings being put in to prove a point, to prove that the meditation worked. I guess thank you could be in its place. Right, he's doubting, he's just now doubting if he would remain credible in the scientific space with these results.
In one way or another, a lot of them change in that same direction. As we were discovering some of these things in meditation, the worry I had as a scientist was, am I going to a space where I'm not going to be seen as a credible scientist, right?
A very valid question, right?
I'm saying that I may have some answers about why people are healing and doing all of these amazing things at an event. And it starts to push the envelope way beyond where most science is comfortable with. When I revealed some of this data to my colleagues, I was happily surprised that they were very interested in this, right? They were shocked as well at the finding. It was well controlled. And we knew from that perspective that there was really a change happening. It was not an abnormality. It was not an artificial kind of change. It was not baked in any way. It was a true scientific effect that we were observing.
I think this is my takeaway. If we dare and have the courage to see these things and raising arms for these things, if we can go to the doctors when we have a family member who's sick and ask them about this, bring the research paper and we say, please acknowledge this, consider this. You are the expert, you have to make the call, but please consider these things because obviously they're more cost efficient, they're not invasive. I'm not saying screw the current way of doing it, I'm just saying let's try this tool, maybe combine them for even greater results because there is something here and I think it's, it's up to us whether this will now be adopted and included on a broader scale. I truly believe in the ripple effect. I mean, obviously, if we open ourselves up to it, magic can happen, healing effects can happen. So it feels like the ball is now on our court. The scientists, they did what they could do. They've done amazing jobs. I guess they continue reproducing this. There's a window of opportunity. We can grab it, and it, with very high probability, will decrease the amount of suffering for the people we love if we grab this opportunity. That's my encouragement. But now I will finish the documentary.